Hello and welcome to Biograde TV. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification so you don't miss our next video. This is how South Africa gained independence. People have lived in the geographical space now called South Africa for over 3 million years. The first time Europeans, the Dutch precisely, ever settled there was in 1652 at Cape Town, where they engaged in the slave trade, farmed, and did some other kinds of businesses. In the year 1820, some Britons arrived at Algoa Bay, now called the Nelson Mandela Bay. There were about 4,500 of them who traveled on 21 ships. Some of them were tradesmen, others farmers, and there were even others who were teachers, bookbinders, religious leaders, soldiers, merchants, blacksmiths, among others. In 1770, the Bantu speakers began to have conflict with those who came into their community. These people are known as the colonists. There were conflicts in some other communities too, and by the year 1806, the Britons had fully occupied Cape Town as a colony, an area under the political control of another country, Britain as it were. Those conflicts became what the British called the Boer Wars. However, the Boers call it the Wars of Independence. Today, many call it the Anglo-Boer Wars. The first Boer War was fought in 1880 through to 1881 and is called the Transvaal Rebellion. You may be wondering who the Boers were. Well, Boers is a Dutch and Afrikaans word for farmers. The Boers were descendants of the Dutch settlers. Today, they are called the Afrikaans. There were 3 Boer Wars altogether. In 1838, slavery was stopped in all geographical areas now collectively called South Africa. On May 31, 1910, the Union of South Africa, what South Africa was first called, was created out of regions known as the Cape, Natal, Transvaal, and the Free States. The plan was to make it a union of the whites. However, the blacks fought against this with the creation of the African National Congress ANC, which was established in 1912. In 1921, the South African Communist Party was established to fight laws that did not favor the blacks, and the struggle continued. On December 11, 1931, the Union became fully independent from the United Kingdom with the passage of the Statute of Westminster, which ended the powers of the British government on the country. This was actually South Africa's independence. However, there was a twist to it, as the minority whites were still ruling the majority blacks. In 1934, the South African Party and National Party came together to form the United Party, which made efforts to reconcile the Afrikaners with the English-speaking whites. The United Party split in 1931 due to the entry of the Union into the World War II as an ally of the United Kingdom. Apartheid, simply known as apartness, is a way of viewing blacks and whites differently. The National Party NP-led government began apartheid in South Africa in 1948, even after the so-called independence. The ANC was established to protest the exclusion of the blacks from leadership. The NP claimed apartheid was for equal development and the freedom of cultural expression. However, this was never the case. Apartheid laws caused whites and blacks to live and work separately. They were not even allowed to marry themselves or to relate in any way. This was called racial discrimination. So independence for them did not look like that of other countries. They still had a long period of battles. The blacks in South Africa made efforts to resist apartheid. A number of organizations were set up for this purpose. Some of them are the African National Congress, the ANC, the Inkatha Freedom Party, IFP, the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM, the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC, and the United Democratic Front, UDF, amongst others. In 1976, the South African government killed hundreds of students who peacefully protested apartheid. This slaughtering of the students in this movement, known as the Soweto Youth Uprising, was quite saddening. The South African police in September of 1977 killed Stephen Biko, an anti-apartheid activist, in his jail cell. Another notable anti-apartheid fighter was Nelson Mandela. He was sentenced to jail where he spent 27 years for that purpose. These are only a few examples of the battles that the South Africans fought in trying to end apartheid. The anti-apartheid movement later gained some international support, and that was already affecting the country's relationship with other countries. So there was some international pressure against apartheid. In 1989, F.W. de Klerk became South Africa's president, and he changed many of the apartheid laws. On February 11, 1990, F.W. de Klerk released Nelson Mandela from prison after spending 27 years there from what was supposed to be a life jail term. Klerk and Mandela worked together to end all apartheid laws. April 27, 1994 remains an unforgettable day in the history of South Africa, as the country held democratic elections and everyone, including blacks, had the right to vote. The ANC, led by Nelson Mandela, won the elections, which made Mandela the first democratically elected South African president. Mandela stepped down as president in 1999. However, he did not stop promoting peace in South Africa and other parts of the world until his death. Nelson Mandela died in 2013 and is remembered as one of South Africa's independence fighters because of his selfless efforts in ending apartheid. What have we missed out in this history? Let us know in the comment section below. Would it be ridiculous to subscribe to our channel? If no, please like the video, share, and subscribe to our channel.